Hello, welcome to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and together we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today we're joined by two men with two very different stories, but they share a bond, their experience with addiction and recovery. Ryan and Travis probably never met before they were a part of Adult and Teen Challenge in the Midlands. Their backgrounds are so very different, yet when I heard their testimonials, I was moved at how powerfully their stories intertwined. Let's find out a little bit more about these two men. Travis, welcome. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ryan, let's start with you. Let's give us a look at your life before drugs or alcohol. Where'd you grow up? What was the family life like? What was the world for you then?
I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. Came from a great family background, family culture. Do the right thing, work hard, be, pillars of the community. Had other friends and family that weren't so much, maybe the other side of the fence, and it was always intriguing to me to peek over the fence, so to say, what's going on over there. Growing up, it was sparked an interest in me, and then I guess getting caught with, I was growing up with music and movies and TV and just, the world. It was kind of intriguing to me to not be, just intrigued with other than being good, maybe the bad. Growing up, wanted to grow my hair long and tear my jeans and
do the stuff that people are telling you not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all teens and kids.
Yeah, so that just became intriguing, and not to say that to discredit my family, they were definitely leading me in the right direction, but it was my it was me that wanted to go astray.
How old were you when you started to feel that, or was it high school already, or sooner?
No, that would have been probably I would say elementary with watching the MTV and wanting to get into the rock and roll and heavy metal and kind of does that make sense to?
Was that the parents' music too?
No, that was me. That was definitely me, and so I think that kind of started me on that path.
What was the first thing you remember doing that we might call bad from a substance abuse point of view?
Well, actually, I do remember being young and my parents having parties, and I would supposed to be in bed, but I would sneak out of bed and run around there. This is young. This is probably 5 or younger, and run around the parties and experience sneak out of bed and experience what was going on. Just seeing all the adults and what they were doing at the party would have been one of the early that I can remember thinking, oh, that's cool.
Or what about actually doing something?
Elementary school, I remember there was down at the park, there was an older kid that was smoking, and he turned some of us guys onto, he wanted us to smoke, and then he got us to go actually to the grocery store and steal cigarettes. So that would have probably been, so right there it was I don't think I was actually inhaling, but it was cool because that older kid was doing it and wanted to be cool too, so we'd go to the park and smoke with him and then go up to the store. And I remember that was when they had I would actually take whole cartons of cigarettes and stick them in my pants and leave,
Now, what was your drug of choice that you were addicted to?
When I got into drugs, it was marijuana and methamphetamines. Yep. I drank and did some pills too, but not really. That wasn't my forte, opposed to smoking weed and doing meth.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Let's check on Travis here. Now, how about you? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up just in Norwalk, Iowa, just a little bit south of Des Moines. I grew up in a Christian home. Thankfully, they always took me to church, and I've always been blessed in that factor. However, going through school, I just never felt like totally accepted by everyone, and so I started to act out a little bit, whether it be just hiding things from my parents or just doing little things that people would say, oh, kids do this nowadays. It was all part of wanting to be accepted by everyone else, and that was just the whole premise of my life and what really got me into drugs and alcohol was just trying to be accepted by others.
How old do you think you were when you first tried drugs or alcohol?
Well, I was around 16 when I first started smoking a little bit. Thankfully, it never took too much wind, but then that still planted the seed. And then by when I was 18 at my senior year in high school, that's when I really started drinking and going to parties. And when I moved to college, that's when drugs and bigger drugs and hallucinogens and pills started entering in my life, and I started partying a lot more.
So basically, when you got away from that leash of your parents, it really went off the deep end.
That's right.
Well, thanks for sharing those stories with us. We'll come back after the break and learn a little bit more about what you've been through. When we return, we'll ask Ryan and Travis to talk more about those critical moments when addiction crept into their lives and took over. You don't want to miss this. See you after the break.
Many teenagers don't understand the dangers and effects of marijuana use. Now it's time for Just the Facts, ma'am. An IQ is a score determined from standardized tests to determine intelligence. An IQ of 100 puts the average person in the 50th percentile of intelligence. Regular marijuana use during teenage years can cause a long-term 8-point drop in IQ. A loss of 8 IQ points drops them to the 29th percentile. For more information, go to drugfreeiowa.org.
My dad thinks he can fix anything, but at least once a day, we catch him doing that with our modem. Like things would magically be faster if he could just get it high enough. He doesn't get that it's our phony internet. Looks like I'm gonna have to fix this one. Siri, get me faster internet.
Okay, calling Mediacom now. Drop the phony internet and get a real deal. Add Mediacom Internet 60 for just $14.99 a month for a year. Call today.
Watching your sister go through withdrawal is the last thing you expect to do. You hope she gets past it, but worry she'll relapse. The story of addiction is all too familiar, but you can change it.
That's 2 out of 3.
If you or someone you know is in recovery from addiction, share your story with the partnership at drugfree.org, because your story can change someone else's.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking about the process of recovery and the nature of that beast called addiction, how powerfully it can bring someone down to a place where hope and desperation can hardly be distinguished from each other. Yet both Ryan and Travis found a way out. Welcome back, guys. Ryan, even looking back at it, when did addiction really become the controlling force in your life?
I'd say junior high, 12, 13 years old. Going to, smoke cigarettes after school, and then the weekends, smoking weed and drinking beer, or, partying, and that just kind of would grow every week. It was, you'd want to be a little cooler and party a little harder than you did last week, and so just through junior high, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, it just grew and, compiled on each other to where it was, a little bit here, a little bit there, weekends, and then, by 8th grade, it had became a lifestyle. It was, by 8th grade, the weekend stuff was an everyday,
This is scary for adults. I mean, somebody watching a show is going to say, there's no way my kid's going to go off and do this stuff in middle school and then be a hardcore partier or drug user by 8th grade. Yet I know the stats. Mm-hmm. It happens to a lot of kids in Iowa every year. Yeah. What was it like? I mean, you had parents. They cared. You said you had a great family. What was it like living in an environment with a caring family and trying to get away with all this stuff?
Well, it can be done, and that's where that's another part of not only the drug and alcohol addiction comes in, then you're lying to cover up, enabling yourself to do that stuff. So here you are, now you have a lying problem that you become very good at. Mm-hmm. Also, with my situation too, when my parents, when they had divorced when I was younger, so that was two different. I had two different homes to go to. and that was two different structures. So I was able to bounce back and forth to hide and cover that up. And like I said, with two different structures, the two different parents' houses had different levels of accountability of what I was doing and where I was at. So.
But you're saying that kids in middle school can be pretty slick at figuring out how to hide stuff from their parents.
Very slick. Very slick.
Huh.
Yes.
All right. Travis, how about you? You mentioned that college really, once you had this strong family, strong Christian upbringing, but you started to do things that weren't maybe as Christian as you'd like them to be, and then you got to college, the reins were off. What happened?
Yeah, really what happened was, like Ryan was saying, with his different houses of levels of accountability in different parts of his houses, really. With me, my parents were always just, some would say strict, but like in actuality, they were just being accountable to me and just not wanting me to go into any lifestyle like that. So it was harder for me, but once I got to college and I moved away from my parents, I started hiding my life from them, and so that just really allowed me to just go in more.
What were your choices of addiction at that time?
It was alcohol, marijuana, hallucinogens, and pills. Honestly, I was going after anything I could get my hands on.
Well, how do you get through school doing that?
It was hard, but I managed to do it somehow. Thankfully, I don't really know.
How many kids, what school did you go to?
I went to Norwalk High School, but then for college I was going to DMAC in Ankeny.
Okay. Of the kids you went to school with, how many were also living sort of a lifestyle like that?
There was a good amount. Thankfully, I never got into that with them when I was in high school, but there was a good amount of people in my high school that were going into that, and I kind of stayed separated from them because my parents didn't approve of it, and they were really the driving force that kept me out of getting into drugs and alcohol from an early age.
So one thing you both have in common is the fact that you had to negotiate a landscape with parents and people that cared and deliberately deceive them.
Yep.
How do you I think I might know the answer, but how do you reconcile the idea of lying? Self-abuse and addictions, those can be considered as diseases, but lying is a pretty severe choice from a Christian point of view or from a human point of view. What bothered you more?
Really, in the end, it was the lying to my parents, because once I got caught breaking into someone's house because I was too high to know what I was doing, then everything was just like out on the table, and my parents were like, we know something's up, and they were the first people that like truly had me feel loved and accepted, and even though I was searching for it through other people too, they were the most people that I cared about too, and their opinion of me.
So basically, something bad happened, you got arrested.
Yeah.
And you were really high. And that brought the family closer together and got you support you needed.
That's right.
Thank you for sharing. When we come back from the break, I'd like to hear your story. And when we come back, we'll talk more about Ryan and Travis's roads to recovery, why they are successful. Stay with us. You don't want to miss this.
You wouldn't walk through the halls of your school naked. Yet without thinking, many teens sext explicit photos of themselves to friends using cell phones, never thinking it'll go further. But once you hit send, you're exposed. You're out there in cyberspace for everyone to see. Sexting, it's dumb, it's dangerous, and it's against the law.
My mom thinks hashtags are something you eat with eggs. She legit has a meltdown every time her phone updates. Last week, she asked me to explain chat snap. So of course, she chose the absolute wrong internet provider, and now we have the slowest internet ever.
Escape Planet Slow and get a real deal. Add Mediacom Internet 60 for just $14.99 a month for a year. Call today.
After Kylie used coke, she stopped caring about school, friends,
or who she had to steal from to get more of it. The story of addiction is all too familiar, but you can change it.
Sleeping in, Dad?
If you or someone you know is in recovery from addiction, share your story with the partnership at drugfree.org, because your story can change someone else's.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're learning that even in the darkest and most desperate of circumstances, a person with help can find the power to save themselves. Let's hear what Ryan and Travis have to say about their road to recovery. Travis, thanks for sharing what you did about the parents really stepping up when you got in trouble and with their love moving forward now. Ryan, what about you? What happened to change your life after living with, and how long did you live with addiction until something did happen?
Oh, I would say from junior high when I was 12 or 13 when that all started until 2011 when I was 34-ish.
So more than half your life.
Yeah. More
Big
than
part
half
of your
my
life,
yeah. You know, just going into high school, when I was in 9th grade, started doing methamphetamines. Same thing, just kind of on the weekends or here and there, no big deal.
No big deal, and no parent wants to hear no big deal on the weekends, and you guys have both done it.
And at that time, I got introduced to it from some older friends. So even my friends that were my age, they weren't doing it yet. So it was kind of my little thing I was doing with some older friends, and it was a couple years till my friends that were my age, same age, started doing it too, and then that really took over. Just started it to take over my life. I didn't see it at the time as big of a takeover of my life as it was, but with that, not only with the drug addiction, but it just started a lifestyle that I was blind to in the moment of lying and cheating, stealing, that just whole deception, So just started that lifestyle. And then it was, starting to fail out of school, but didn't really care. And then it really hit me then, that when my parents started to pursue me, knowing stuff was wrong and wanting to help me, but I was, I would run from that. I wouldn't stick around long enough to get help,
So what happened that really started to turn the tide?
Well, actually, in 2004, I ended up in jail, and I had an opportunity to get out of jail on an ankle bracelet, but I needed somewhere to go, and so to my father's house was the best. And my dad and stepmom told me, absolutely, except for we want you to get help. So me being in jail, oh yeah, I'll do whatever. Let's get out of jail. But there also was, deep in my heart, I knew I needed help. At that moment, I did just want to get out of jail just to go back into my same mess. But deep down inside, I really did know that at some point I do need to get help and change my life. But you get comfortable in your misery and it's easy. But I told them I'll do whatever it takes. And that's when they had the idea of Adult and Teen Challenge of the Midlands. They just wanted me to go look at it with them. And I said, okay, I'll go. Just to go. I didn't really want to, but I said I would just to get out of jail.
You got to make them happy. Yeah, getting out of jail is a good idea.
When I went there, their intake coordinator at the time was Brian Schroeder. So I was just there with my father just to go through the motions. And when I met Brian, he shared his testimony with me, and he's from Des Moines also. So I could relate with him because we knew some of the same people, and just his testimony was very similar to mine. And it was really unique, actually. My dad was sitting next to me, and I was always honest with my father, but not with the details. Does that make sense? Like, there was a lot of lies and deception, but I was open to him, but not with details. And in that room,
so lies by omission.
Yeah, however you want to word that. So in that room, though, with at Teen Challenge, with Brian, and Brian asking me to share my heart, I just felt this peace to me to open up and let it out. And I totally forgot my dad was even sitting next to me. And so by the time I got done speaking, I looked over and my dad's jaw's just on the ground because I exposed all the details, you know, the details of like, my dad knew I had a problem, and I was honest that I had a problem, but not the details of my mountains and mountains and mountains of problems in my life from all the addictions and just that lifestyle. So anyway, that's where the seed was planted. But I ran from it again in 2004. So the seed was planted. I went to Teen Challenge for a short period and left. But that's where the seed was planted. And when I left, I knew that was what I needed to change my life. But I ran from it and got stuck back in my misery, stuck back in my addictions for another, until from 2004 until 2011. I was back in all my addictions and that whole lifestyle. And it was, inside my heart was really broken because I knew there was a better way. I knew there was life change. And I was keeping my family stiff-armed away from me because I was back in all my junk and addictions. And it was heartbreaking to, you know, keep them pushed away from me so they weren't exposed to what I was doing and how I was living. They still loved me. They still pursued me. I still loved them. But I kept them at a distance to enable my addictions.
But you turned it around.
Yes.
And you got straight, and both of you on the road to recovery.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Let's continue the story after the break, because I'd like to hear you share some of the advice that you might share with people based on what you've been through. After a short break, we'll ask Ryan and Travis to share some insights, advice that may help you deal with addiction in the process of recovery or help somebody you love. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. She's been dying to cough. She's been all that. Right through there.
You have to help her. Help her.
Hey, Sam, can you hear me? Looks like an overdose. Do you know what she was taking?
She doesn't do drugs. Her friends don't do drugs.
No, we're just trying to save your daughter's life. Any idea?
Going to the movies, hon. See you later.
Bye, Sam. Sam, wake up.
Sharing. I mean, I don't mind it when there's enough to go around. Toys with Charlie? Okay. My mint ice cream? Fine. Our slow internet with my whole family at the same time? That's pushing a man too far.
Get unlinked and get a real deal. Add Mediacom Internet 60 for just $14.99 a month for a year. Call today.
I thought texting friends on her cell phone was harmless.
But there she is, our daughter, topless for everyone to see.
I'm so embarrassed for her. I can't even imagine what she must be feeling. How did this happen?
What was she thinking?
Someone sent our teenage son a photo of a naked classmate. If he forwards it, it's a crime.
Our son committing a crime? I had no idea.
And he could be labeled a sex offender.
Tell your teen, sexting is a crime.
My dad thinks he can fix anything. But at least once a day, we catch him doing that with our modem. Like things would magically be faster if he could just get it high enough. He doesn't get that it's our phony internet. Looks like I'm gonna have to fix this one. Siri, get me faster internet.
Okay, calling Mediacom now.
Drop the phony internet and get a real deal. Add Mediacom Internet 60 for just $14.99 a month for a year. Call today.
Thank you for joining us on Surviving Bad. We've had some wonderful guests today, Travis and Ryan, sharing a story about their process of addiction and recovery. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing. We're getting to the point now where we can share some advice with our viewers. You are both engaged with Adult and Teen Challenge of the Midlands. It's a faith-based treatment and recovery program. What would you attribute the greatest success to, and who would you thank most? What advice would you give to other people based on your experience?
What I would attribute my great success to is honestly just other people holding me and loving me as I go through healing my soul and healing just basically finding my identity again and who God says that I am. That would be my parents and the Teen Challenge staff and that I get to work with now, help other people find their identity in God so that way they don't have to chase after the approval of other people and it could lead them back into drugs. And also, if you don't know your identity, you don't know your purpose in life, and you can't have that confidence and a gumption to just really continue on in life. And you spend life just searching.
I can
for
see
things.
how important that was to you to be able to also give back from going through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, what do you think? I mean, what advice would you share with people after what you've been through?
Well, I would say, you know, if for people that are, you know, have life-controlling problems or addictions themselves, not to give up. There is hope, or if it's someone you know, don't stop pursuing them to get them help, because you know they're going to be comfortable in their misery and it's hard to come out of. But don't give up on pursuing getting them help, or you know, whatever that is.
How young do you think a child needs to be for a parent to pay strong attention to what they're doing and who they're doing it with?
Definitely, I would say, you know, right going into junior high is probably the big pivotal point, you know, to be more involved and more accountable, because that's where junior high.
Both, you think that at that age group, that's the most sensitive? So parents really need to turn the screws on the kids to help keep them safe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have benefited yourselves personally if somehow they had a way, even though we know you did the best they could,
Yeah.
to have gotten into your lives to keep you from going this direction? Middle school would have been the time to target?
Yeah.
I would say so, but also on top of that, parents need to realize that it's not, they can do all that they can, but in the end, they gotta have to sometimes separate themselves from their child's choices, because my parents and some other people have struggled with the fact when they have a kid that goes through addiction and all that, they blame themselves a lot, and that's just not a good feeling for anyone to have, and blame themselves for not their problem.
Thank you very much, and that's great advice. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for being with us today, and keep your eye on Mediacom MC22 for our next episode, where we explore more stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Only on Surviving Bad on Mediacom MC22, your local programming leader.